Welcome to Engineering Influence, the podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies, coming from our 2024 Spring Convention here in Washington, D.C. And today we were treated to a fantastic presentation by Justin Wren, who is not only a world-class MMA fighter, but also a humanitarian who is doing great things to bring water and life and opportunity to a very forgotten people in the Congo. And a story that is just truly amazing, Justin. I think that, number one, you got a big heart.
Thank you.
I think, it takes a type of personality to get into mixed martial arts to begin with, and a drive to excel in an area where so many people are just really competitive because it's a one-on-one thing. And then to take that drive and to put it to actually addressing a massive issue to a forgotten people. Because people, we know of the Pygmy people, we know of these tribes in Africa. They're throughout the world that people are just forgotten. People don't really pay a lot of attention to, and really small changes, clean water, is incalculable improvement to their lives. And you were able to start Fight for the Forgotten, an organization to bring water to these people. Just thank you for being here. It's just great to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I would never pretend to be an engineer, but
neither would I.
Engineers are my people, my heroes, and I mean that. And we were just talking, like the unsung heroes of society that make the world turn, and the building blocks for the roads to get an ambulance to the hospital, the clean water, the wastewater. I mean, everything that they do is incredible with infrastructure and building better lives.
Yeah, and I think what you said, you kind of summarized that at the start, and I think that did resonate a lot with the people in the room, because a lot of the work that they do is to improve. It's one of those few professions where it's kind of like medicine and other things where you're actually trying to fix something. You're trying to improve something. If something isn't working, you're trying to make it work.
Yeah.
If there's a need, you're trying to fill it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't get recognized for it.
Right.
You only know about infrastructure if it fails, right?
Right.
If you got a pothole.
Whenever they hear about it. Something's going wrong.
Exactly. When something goes wrong.
But I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
I just remember someone on my board of directors, Bernard Amadei, founder of Engineers Without Borders, who's been to Uganda with me 3 times. And sometimes I have to pull these stories out. He's an incredible human being.
Yeah.
But even him, who's done so much, is so humble.
Yeah, they don't talk about it.
That they don't, or he will share those stories because he knows that he can help engineer more change that way.
Yeah.
And so I just want to remind everyone that what they do truly matters. If you didn't get to hear the keynote, that was hopefully the heart of it, is what you do matters, what all of us do matters, and we can do even more than we even know.
Yeah.
And so I think what Steve Hall,
Yeah.
what he hit on about sharing those stories is so important. It's hard for me to share my story sometimes. There's parts in it I have to be vulnerable, or parts of it I have to share so that it can touch somebody to hopefully move them to action. And I think that if engineers want to attract younger talent, they need to share their stories of what a difference they made, because you can make that difference too, and it'll draw people in to want to make that change, make that difference, because there's certain minds out there that are so great for engineering that don't work like mine. The problem solver that can see it and has the mechanical mind and everything else, and it's whoa, we need them to do engineering.
And realize that if they want to make a difference in the world, they can put that kind of unique way of looking at the world to use.
Yeah.
Because I love looking at a problem and going, I have absolutely no idea how to fix this. I know what the end result is. For you, the end result is clean water.
Right.
Okay, how do I dig a well? And how do you get to that point A to point B? And you realize in describing it, getting from point A to point B is not an easy task.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And we need people that it comes more naturally to them, and their mind works that way, and they have the grit and determination and gratitude that they have that mind and skill and heart, and it takes a lot of hands and a lot of hearts for sure.
So when you started the whole the story, of course, of you getting to the point where you actually went to Africa is a great story of challenge and just realizing that there's something else out there, right? I mean, you were at the top of your game. I mean, you started, you were one of the youngest UFC heavyweights at 19, really?
At 19, I was a professional heavyweight. At 21, the UFC called me, and at 22, I was filmed The Ultimate Fighter when I was 21 years old, and I was in the UFC when I was 22, and I walked away when I was 23. And I took 5 years off to live off and on in Africa, and I've built up over 3 years there in Congo and in Uganda. And I went back, made a comeback, and built up a few more wins. And then in the recent years, I decided, hey, I've got a bigger fight, and I would never trade fighting for people to fight against one person. But it had its benefits where I could fight, win, grab the microphone, and tell people about my second family who just deserves a fighting chance. Like, they want to build better lives for themselves. They just need some of the resources, some of the tools, some of the skills, some of the trades, and that's what they're asking for. And so I was put in a really unique situation to be able to try to be the connecting point, the connector.
Give the voice to the voiceless, right? And really that, as you mentioned during your talk, that when you disappeared from the circuit, right, and Rogan wanted to have you on to say what happened, like why did you walk away, and that was really when things changed, because that audience is massive, right? So when you went on that show, all of a sudden you saw that money coming in, and then you got the actual financial ability to start shipping materials, getting stuff over to Africa, to actually start doing things at scale. Today, how many people do you have as part of the group that's actively working on the ground?
Stateside, we're small. We're lean. We have some contractors, but we have a team of 3 full-time stateside. Actually, only 2. But then we have some contractors, and overseas, that's where we really try to invest and build a team. So at least 10. Most are full-time. A couple are part-time. And then we have some more contractors, probably 20 or more that contract with us. So a team of probably 30. And some are off and on, some are for special projects and special needs, and the team we're bringing in to help build the whole community center with architects and engineers and builders. I mean, that team's going to be 30 or 40 as well. So.
And you've gone far beyond wells. I mean, like you said, like you have the design, you have the engineer engaged with the community center. You have a reforestation program. You're acquiring land, because I mean, really, let's just take a step back here and just the communities that you're focused in on. People don't really realize these are people who are still seen as second class at best on a lot of communities, right? Give a little perspective on exactly what the challenge is with these peoples and trying to get them to a point where they can live free.
So I would say it depends on where you're talking about. So the Pygmy people on a broad scale are indigenous forest dwelling people, and they span across 8 or 9 African nations. And there's the Batwa in Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi. There's the Mabuti and the Efe that are in the Congo and Central African Republic and Republic of Congo. There's the Baka, Aka, and Bayaka that live, Pygmy people that live in Cameroon and Gabon. And they're just incredible. Like, they are one of the oldest people groups on Earth, 10 to 15,000 years old, anthropologists say, and anthropologists say they're some of the most oppressed people in history. And so in some places they're enslaved, actually in a lot of places. And it depends on what population you're talking about. In Congo, there's 400 to 600,000 of the Pygmy people, the Mabuti and the Efe. And then in Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi, there's just a few thousand. But they all face similar challenges of discrimination, oppression, being treated or actually enslaved, modern-day slavery, or indentured servitude, or in Uganda, where we're really focusing our efforts next. And now we've expanded our focus there because they were evicted from the rainforest.
Yeah.
The people where their ancestral home is for 10,000 plus years,
Yeah.
in the name of sustainability, the most sustainable people who protect the forest and only take what they need,
Yeah.
were said they can't live there anymore. So that's why we've been helping get back land. We've helped get back over 3,000 acres of land.
Yeah.
Our drillers and the local people, becoming a local solution to their local problem, have provided clean water to more than 52,000 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've seen people transition out of a life of slavery, and not as many as we'd like to hope, but
course, yeah.
or help, but more than 1,800 people.
Yeah.
And that is probably the most meaningful thing that's come from the change or the work, and it's really by just bringing water to both sides. Whenever we really educate people on how much, or ask the questions, not educate them, we ask the questions and they educate themselves.
Yeah.
By saying, how much would water change your life of the people oppressing them who don't have it? And it's like, we could be a dual income family, or
Yeah.
my wife could have a job. And so they'd have twice the take home. Actually, they'd have more than that, because the average family, we did one little study that was hundreds and hundreds of people, but they were spending on average $165, $168 a year on treatment of waterborne disease. Now, when you're only making $1 to $1.25, $1.50 per day, and you're a single income family, that's half your paycheck.
Yeah.
That you're spending on your wife, your kids, yourself, days you can't go into work because you're sick of dirty
Absolutely, yeah.
water. So it changes everything. Their child can go to school for the first time because they can pay school fees, or they don't have to collect water.
Yeah.
And it's like, so this would really help. Like, well, could you help us out some? We want to buy this land and they want to live there. And would that be a benefit or a burden? Would that be a conflict, or would that be some resolution? And sometimes it's really welcomed as like, this would change everything. It's well worth it. Like generations ago, having them as indentured servants or slaves, like depending on where you are, it was a benefit for maybe their grandfather or their father or their family. And then sometimes it becomes almost more of a burden where it's hard for them to provide for themselves. So taking that on to provide for another family is hard.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, could this help? And because if we love one side and hate the other, or if we help one side and neglect the other, then it's only going to come back to hurt the people you're there to help. And so we go slow, and we ask questions, and we hold community meetings.
The way it was a collaborative effort.
Yes.
You didn't come in there saying, I have the solution and I'm going to do this. You said, what do you need? What's the step that we have to take?
Honestly, how ignorant would that be to say I have the answer in
Right,
a different country or culture or community?
It wouldn't be the first time it's been done.
A dark side to an older charitable model is that I think still there's probably more than 230,000 broken wells in Africa.
Yeah.
Which is billions, with a B, billions of wasted charitable dollars.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's because it's a show up, blow out technique.
Yeah.
Where you announce your arrival with a parade, you throw a party, you get your pictures, and then bail.
Yeah.
And it's like, peace out. And they don't have a relationship with the people that drilled the well, or the locals weren't trained on how to maintenance it, upkeep it, right?
Exactly.
Like maintenance and upkeep,
Yeah. It's a show and you're gone,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, and then the trust is broken.
Yeah.
Then you have to rebuild
and
that
it's
trust.
more disempowering after it breaks.
Yeah.
Because it might not be locally affordable or locally available.
Yeah.
And no one was trained. And so a car is going to need new tires, right?
Yeah.
So a well might need a new pump one day, will. And so you got to make sure that and oftentimes the capacity, or it's overloaded and overused and things like that, because it's providing clean water to 3,000 people instead of 100 to 300 people, right?
Yeah.
And so we're really excited for this next phase. We already have these huge water towers that are distributing through the community, but we're going to do a water reservoir, and we're going to have rain catchment. So we're going to have multiple solutions, right? Not just a well, but the water reservoir that has break tanks through the mountains, and the rain catchment too. So you have like your checking account, your savings account, and another account.
Yeah, it's sustainable, it's expandable.
Yeah.
You're actually creating it for the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even talk about some of the challenges. I probably should have said it today. We just completed 13 kilometers of road where it never existed before.
Yeah.
It was footpaths, and it was through the rainforest and up the mountains.
Yeah.
And so that is an engineering challenge, needing the graders and the bulldozers and the team and the
you need the infrastructure to actually get there to actually
yeah,
build this.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot to it, but every single thing touches an engineering challenge.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because to do this, it's all an engineering challenge. And I know there are a lot of firms, and some of the larger firms that we have are members that are doing things across the world. They're either rebuilding bridges or they're digging wells in certain areas. And it's just great to have an organization like yours part of that that's actually committed to long-term generational change. And, for anybody out there who is interested in lending their own talents or financial support, where should they go? Where should they find you?
Well, the easiest way to make direct impact right now is if you go to fightfortheforgotten.org or fftf.org, you can join our monthly donor club and monthly supporters, like join forces with us. It could be $5 a month, $40 a month, $100 a month, like whatever someone can do and is led or called to do. Like that's a incredible direct way to do it. Eventually, hopefully in the next 18 to 24 months, there'll be guest houses, and we're going to do some strategic trips. So there's a term called voluntourism, and some people take that too far, some don't take it, some don't actually look into that. And one thing you don't want to do is like take volunteers that take someone else's job, right? And so if we come there and put up people on the sidelines and say, hey, we're in the game now, you're not, that communicates the wrong thing. And so we might be taking trips of engineers or agriculturalists or doctors that can do strategic surgeries or strategic projects or impart their knowledge
so
to
that
the team.
There can take it on and do it then.
Right. So we're thinking that through with the board and how do we do it, and there's risk involved obviously, like especially Congo, but Uganda is a lot safer. But yeah, it's something to think about. If people are interested, they can reach out on the website, fightfortheforgotten.org, fftf.org. And my email is justin@fftf.org. And please include admin@fftf.org so we can make sure I get a chance to get back to them.
Awesome. Well, I hope that there are a lot of people out there listening who are engaged in this kind of work, who are, we got the guy, Gary Robbins, a geotechnical engineer. You got him up there and, on stage. I mean, there are a lot of people who have those talents, and hopefully they can provide their own support and help you expand the mission and keep it going. But it's fantastic story, fantastic work.
Thank you.
We don't get a lot of standing ovations. You got a standing ovation. I think you really resonated with the audience, and the story's fantastic. So I appreciate you speaking and taking the time afterwards, coming off stage and continuing on. So,
well, I do want to just say how grateful I am. Like, I really do want to sing y'all's praises, ACEC, and I know how incredible of an organization it is and how much it matters. Wow. And I don't want people to forget that. And oftentimes we don't give ourselves or the people around us enough credit for how much they do. And I just want to say, if you're listening to this and you're an engineer, like, absolutely please give yourself a pat on the back and have a moment where you can really tap in and be grateful for your gifting that you're giving to the world, to this great nation, to your local community, because wow, like, you have some skills and talents that a lot of people don't have, and maybe others take it for granted at times because we're caught up in our day-to-day. But please don't take it for granted for yourself. Like, we need you, and I'm so humbled and honored that you exist.
Well, we appreciate that, really do. And Justin, again, thanks for being on.
Oh, thank you.
And again, this has been Engineering Influence, a podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. We'll see you next time.